Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good week so far. I'm going to get going. Hello, it's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, April 28th, 2020, and this is 10 on Tuesdays. I am Holly Hoffman, your host and the CEO of the Sales and Income Tax Advisory Network. For the last 8 years, I worked for the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, starting as a field auditor, and then became head of the Wisconsin DOR Speakers Bureau and worked as a technical law specialist. Last November, I decided to work directly on behalf of businesses and wanted to specifically provide services and training to the smaller size businesses struggling with sales tax issues. And that's why I came up with the Tax Advisory Network. So welcome, everyone. I'm really enjoying this weekly webinar project. I invite you to join me at 10 a.m. every Tuesday to have a casual chat about a variety of sales tax and multi-state topics. We have a Facebook group, 10 on Tuesdays, that I hope you join to suggest topics of interest to you and to further discuss things we talk about on the webinar. Today's show is about actions you should take when you receive the dreaded audit notice from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, indicating that you've been selected for an audit. Before I get started, I just want to say again, my format includes a webinar for you to reference. You don't need to follow the slides. I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea and do some light work while just listening. These episodes are recorded and are available to you, so if something caught your attention and you need to revisit the topic, you can look at the reference materials on the slides and listen to the information again. You can access that information, my 10 on Tuesday channel and the 10 on Tuesday Facebook group, all on my website. You can get to it at salesandincometacx.com/event. Click on any 10 on Tuesday event, and then you'll see the link for the 10 on Tuesday channel where you can find previous episodes, or the 10 on Tuesday Facebook group. So today, when you get that audit notice, not that I'm saying you will, but if you're unfortunate enough to get an audit notice, we're going to talk about what to do next. So there's 3 important steps. Oh, I hope you can't hear vehicles going by. 3 important steps you need to do immediately. I'm going to talk about what not to do. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a reverse audit, what it means and why it's necessary. So the first steps you want to do immediately, first of all, anytime you get a notice from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, or the IRS for that matter, please do not avoid it. Please make sure you open it and look at what the notice is. So in the case if it's an audit notice, there's very important information in it. It's going to identify what entity is being audited. Very important. Many people who own businesses have separate entities or several entities that they're involved with. That's businesses that report tax. So you want to identify and understand which entity is being audited, which tax type is being audited. So the notice will indicate if it's income franchise or if it's sales and use tax. It might be both. Or if it's withholding tax, you want to understand which tax type's being audited. And then it's also going to indicate what period is being audited. It'll give the dates. Is it a 4-year audit? Are you unregistered? Maybe it's a 6-year period. So you want to know that information to know what records you're going to be looking to find. And then who's the auditor will be listed on there, the auditor's name and their contact information. And it'll list the auditor's supervisor and the supervisor's contact information. You want to hold on to this letter. The important thing is obviously the auditor you will need to contact to set up the start of the audit, but you want to keep the auditor's supervisor information available to you, because anytime there's an impasse on the audit or you have questions that the auditor is not able to answer, or maybe you don't feel the auditor is being responsive enough, your next step, your next way to elevate that issue is to go to the audit supervisor. Also, the audit supervisor is the one you'll be discussing any negotiations for settlement on the audit. So it's important information there. So you open the notice, you know you're being audited, it's a sales tax audit, let's say, 4-year audit period. Oh, what do you do next? I'm sure you're stressed out and don't know what to do. Contact an expert. Contact either, if you have a trusted expert who prepares your returns for you already, or you can reach out to me, absolutely. I do free consultations. You'll want to reach out to someone to discuss the audit notice, discuss your business, explain what you do, what you sell, how you do it, where you do it, discuss your procedures, what staff's involved, how you keep your records, how you make decisions. Discuss any changes during the audit period. This is very important. Any software changes you made during the audit period. If you had employee turnover during the audit period. Any major changes in products or services that you offered. Maybe you added some new services. If there was a disaster or illness that may have impacted whether you had records or type of records or processes at the time. If you changed accounting method. If your business expanded. There's a whole lot of things that could be involved that the expert would want to look at if you had a big expansion. So maybe there's construction and additional expenses that you had that are a concern that might be risk right now. Or it could be that you downsize during the audit period. That could happen too. So these are major changes. They affect how you would approach an audit. They affect the outcomes of the audit. They affect sampling. These are important issues that you would want to discuss and that the expert would want to be aware of. You're going to discuss your records, quantity of records, availability. Are they in a warehouse? How are they filed? Are they paper? Are they electronic? Your sales records, the invoices will probably be electronic, whereas purchase records, maybe you scan them in, maybe you receive them electronically. Most people have purchase records in paper files. How do you file them? Where are they kept? Do you have complete records for the audit period? What about your assets, your purchases and sales of fixed assets? How are those filed? You'll want to look at your exemption certificates. Where do you maintain those? You're going to discuss approach and plan for contacting the auditor. When you contact the auditor, they're going to discuss pretty much all the same things, go over issues that you talked about with your expert, but they're going to want to know date, time, and place of where the audit's going to occur. Well, right now during the shutdown, the audit's going to occur at DOR remotely. So I highly recommend that anyone who is notified now of an audit, it's very cumbersome to send in or scan all your information and deliver it to DOR. So I would suggest delaying the audit, postponing it until after the shutdown, when you can do it in person. Otherwise, finding a way to do that would be something you want to discuss with your expert. When to do the audit is important. Many businesses, their busy time in Wisconsin, just due to our weather, is during the summer times. So you might want to schedule the audit to occur in your non-busy time, your downtime in the fall or over winter, and that's totally acceptable. If you have 3 months, if you get notified, say in January of an audit, you can probably finish that audit prior to your busy season in the spring. So just discuss that with your expert and see what their guidance is, and discuss openly what your concerns are and if there's anything that would cause you to not be able to focus on the audit. What you don't want to do is have an audit going on when you're already putting in 70 hours a week. And you want the audit to move quickly. You want to get the correct information to the auditor in a timely manner, and you want to have control of your audit. And if you're doing it kind of on the side and you're not able to focus on it, then it's going to be an issue. It's not going to run as smoothly or as quickly, and it could run into some implications for you. So I would try to avoid having it done during a busy season, or if you're traveling or going to be out of town and not available, I would try to schedule around that. So after you talk to your expert and you decide an approach and plan for contacting the auditor, maybe you do it together, maybe you do it by yourself, maybe the expert contacts the auditor on their own. They should have a good understanding of your business and records after the conversation. So someone's going to contact the auditor to set that date, time, and location for the start of the audit or to delay the audit. But that conversation is really the introduction to start building a relationship and some trust and credibility with the auditor. So it's an important conversation. The auditor may be able to tell you why your audit was selected. Now, sometimes the auditor doesn't know, it just comes through in the pipeline and they see it and it's assigned to them. Sometimes the auditor knows that it was based on specific concerns, certain adjustments that are expected to be done in the audit. They can share that with you if they know it. And I suggest asking. If they know something, they will share it with you. So it helps you to identify what areas or some things to definitely focus on to resolve for them. Set a date to begin the record review. We kind of talked about that. Discuss your business. They're going to ask what you do, how you do it, what locations. You know, they're trying to understand what they're going to be seeing in the records. Okay, so to identify it's taxable or non-taxable. Having been an auditor, these conversations to me were pretty much relaxed, and I was just learning what I could from the conversation to get an idea of what I was walking into, what they did in their business, and it was kind of fun learning about what they do. So it was a nice, more relaxed conversation. And then they're going to discuss your records, kind of the things we talked about that you should have discussed with your expert. Availability, quantity, type, whether it's paper, electronic, completeness, possibility. They might discuss sampling or possible sampling depending on the quantity of records. And then this is a good time to talk about reports. They're going to ask for certain reports, trial balance, general ledger, chart of accounts, things like that. But there may be other reports that you can suggest that, based on your discussion with them, that they'd be interested in. Anything you can do to guide them and give them what they need without being real broad, to focus in so that they're not looking at lots of records, that they're looking at specific things. You're not hiding anything from them. You're just answering their questions very expediently, giving the information they ask for to resolve whatever tax question they have. So, because the more records they see, the more information they see, then they're going to question this or question that, or you want to avoid that. So I said we're going to talk about what not to do. And the first one is don't panic. And I know that's the first thing everyone does. When I was an auditor, it was a lot of tears, and the worst things were happening in people's lives while audits were going on. It was miserable. But do not panic. The audit's going to occur. If the letter went out, it's already set in motion. What you need to do is stay calm, cool, and collected, and be strategic. Use your time and effort strategically. Think about ways to reduce the records that they're seeing. So help them answer their questions, give them specific reports of what they're asking for. It seems like you're being overly helpful, but it's really not. It's taking control, not allowing them to see a whole lot of information, just answering their specific questions. Focus on reducing the assessment. You want to look at the biggest dollars that they're questioning and reoccurring transactions, that if you get those issues resolved, it makes a huge difference in the assessment. And then you can move down to the occasional items or the lesser occurring or the lesser dollar amounts. Again, narrowing record view and then speeding up the audit. Respond to requests quickly but thoughtfully, and suggest approaches to best resolve auditor concerns. You know, what reports can you create that specifically answer whether or not you charge tax on this item? I can run a report on that, so that it stays specific to that. The more you speed up the audit, it's good for you because you're not focusing and distracted on something other than your business, but it also keeps things moving and the auditor doesn't have time to dwell or think about other things. The auditor also wants to close it out quickly, and the goal at DOR right now is get in, get out, assess the big things, and move on. So they're not trying to nickel and dime every little thing. So you want to keep it moving, resolve those big things, and have them move on without much of an assessment. So keeping it moving is good for everyone. What you do not want to do is, as soon as you get the audit notice, start putting your entire staff on collecting missing exemption certificates. If you don't have all your exemption certificates, it is what it is. I would wait until the auditor, the auditor may do a sample. They may only question certain ones and then go get those during the audit. But why waste a couple months either delaying the audit or at the start of the audit stressing yourself out trying to get all these missing exemption certificates when the auditor wouldn't have even asked for them? So after the audit occurs, you should have them on file, you have some missing, then you can start, as customers contact you, make sure you complete your records and get those exemption certificates on file. But during an audit, wait until the auditor asks you for those specific ones that you need to eliminate questions. Otherwise, you're wasting time that you could be spending on other things. Do not start self-auditing to find unpaid tax. The auditor is going to look for tax you owe. You don't want to help them out. That's not what you need to focus on anyways. So let the auditor find what issues you may have or may not have. Otherwise, most likely, if you find stuff, you're going to be pointing it out, or you're going to have those records out and it's going to become obvious to the auditor. So don't help the auditor out. You're not self-auditing to find unpaid tax. Let the auditor tell you that. What you want to focus on immediately is starting a reverse audit. And that's something you're going to have to employ your expert or your tax professional on. What a reverse audit is it identifies tax you paid in error. So whether it was exemptions that were available to you that you didn't use, tax charged to customers in error. And remember, during an audit, if you charge tax to customers in error and it's refunded, you get to keep that tax. You don't have to refund it to your customers. Tax overpaid on purchases. You're going to be looking at things, things that I look for is a Wisconsin business that had items delivered to the job site maybe, or outside the state, and they never came into Wisconsin, were never used in Wisconsin, stored in Wisconsin, but you remitted Wisconsin tax on it. I would be looking for requesting refunds on that. anything that would be tax paid that didn't need to be paid. You want to start that review immediately because you want that completed during the audit. And you need to submit, it's generally on a buyer's claim for refund during the audit, and then the auditor will also audit your claim for refund. But Wisconsin Department of Revenue, they don't audit to find refunds or overpayment of tax. They're only there to look whether or not you underpaid tax. So if you're not looking for this, they're not going to bring it up to you. Some auditors will notice and say, hey, you have this, but still it's on you to put the information together and submit a claim to them. It's important because your reverse audit, your claim for refund during an audit is going to offset any tax due. So it reduces the amount of tax you might owe if you had any errors and you underpaid tax. It's going to reduce that amount. When it does that, it reduces or eliminates the interest because it's reducing that tax too. And it reduces your penalties if there's penalties. So it's it makes a huge difference in your audit. So you want someone else. Obviously, if you knew you paid tax in error, well, some people know. I've been to plenty of seminars and people talk to me on the side and they say, oh, I know I've been doing this, but it's not worth submitting a claim for refund in general. But I always say, make a note of it, keep that in your back pocket. If you were audited, it'd be worth it then to make a point to go back and identify all that tax, okay? So some people do know, but generally, if you knew you were paying tax in error, you wouldn't do it because that's money that's lost to your business if it's paid to the state. So generally, you need someone else, someone outside who understands the tax laws to look at this for you and identify. And you'd be surprised at how many places you accidentally either pay twice. I've seen vehicle purchases where you paid the seller, you paid the dealer tax, and then when you went to register, maybe it was a different person who went in to do the registration, but somehow they ended up paying use tax when registering the vehicle when you already paid sales tax. So that can add up. That's big dollars. So the reverse audit, that's where you want to spend your time, not trying to see what tax the auditor is going to come up with that you owe. You want to focus on how much tax you overpaid. This is just a snippet. I do a monthly newsletter, so sign up for that if you haven't already. This is just part of the letter, but I wanted to show you, I do offer services. On the left side, the sales and use tax compliance assessment, that's before you get audited. I basically go out there and look at what an auditor would look at, and I can do this remotely. I've rethought my ways of how I do things, and we could do this remotely easily. But it prepares you, it identifies what tax you're paying unnecessarily. You want that in your business. You don't want to hope you get audited someday so that you can use that to offset tax too. You want to be paying the right amount of tax, not too much and not too little. Otherwise, it's lost money to your business. You could be using that to reinvest. So we identify any claims for refunds you have. We identify any errors and get those corrected. And a lot of times, it's not that people are paying tax incorrectly or not paying tax incorrectly. It's that they don't have the proper records or record-keeping processes in place to substantiate what they're paying. So we look at, during the assessment, what your record-keeping is, and do you have the records necessary to substantiate exemptions that you use or your customers' exemptions, things like that. And those avoid any issues with the audit. Also, you want to look at any things you may be doing, like how you fill out your return, or how you do reporting, or how you invoice customers, that might flag an audit. If that customer gets audited, are they going to look at your invoice during that audit and say, hey, I don't think this business knows what they're doing, we're going to go audit them next? So avoiding activities that cause audit are things that we'd look at there. But during the shutdown right now with the coronavirus, actually my first episode of 10 on Tuesdays was about audit during the COVID crisis. DOR is continuing to audit even during the shutdown. And just so you know, I just saw that they are hiring auditors right now. So the new class of auditors starts in June. So they're not looking at slowing down on auditing. And my concern is that businesses that are required to shut down and people are required to work from home, it makes it really difficult to cooperate with an audit. So I wanted to provide some audit relief. And so basically my offer is that you get your first 5 hours of audit defense at $200 an hour, which is a discount anyways, and then receive the next 5 hours of audit defense at no charge. I don't want people to feel like they can't afford to hire someone. They're already down and out on their luck. Then they're getting audited, and then on top of it, they're supposed to pay someone else to come in and help them during the audit. I don't want people to feel like they don't have anywhere to go. So again, my consultations are free, please. You know, if you're in a bad situation, at least call and talk to someone. But this should make it more accessible for folks to have a decent audit defense in that situation. But go back and check out my first episode if you didn't hear it the first time about audit during the COVID crisis. So that is what you should do when you receive an audit notice. Just a brief overview of what you should do. Next week, we're talking about navigating during an audit, things that you can do to help manage the audit. We kind of touched on some of the things today, but next week we can get into more of how you control the audit and manage it, and don't let the auditor manage you. So that'll be next week's conversation. Does anyone have any questions? I can open it up and let you speak with me. Hang on here, let me undo everyone's. There we go. Did anyone have any questions? All right, well, you know how to reach me. You know how to contact me. If you guys have any questions or any concerns, if you've been through an audit, make sure that you understand what you did. Do you need to amend anything post-audit? If the audit assessment you don't think was right and you have documentation, you can appeal. You have 60 days from the date of your audit amount due notice to file an appeal. You have 2 years from that audit amount due notice to file for a claim for refund of any tax assessed in that audit. Just make sure you do it within those time periods, otherwise you lose out. But I will talk to you folks next week. I want to thank you for, oh, Axel has a question. Hi, Axel.
Yeah, you know how many auditors revenue is planning on adding?
I don't. I just saw the notice and I was kind of surprised by it. I know they hire regularly. I just thought they'd take a pause.
Are you surprised because there's no more parking at revenue?
I'm just surprised during this time they'd be adding more folks. I mean, yeah. I feel like audit should have been paused. I know, like for the IRS and DOR was trying to follow the IRS for their response to the coronavirus. But IRS is short on people, and IRS reassigned auditors to assist with the refunds and other things that they were doing, other services that they provide. Whereas DOR, just auditors are still auditing. They're not doing other things at DOR. So
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just wondering because I know last hiring class was pretty big.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I was just wondering.
I haven't heard on that, but my contacts at DOR are now more on the administration side, you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right.
thanks, Axel. It was nice
Yeah, no
talking
problem.
to you.
Same here.
All right. Well, it's 10:30. I'm going to let you folks go. I hope you join me next week so we can talk about what to do during an audit and how to manage the auditor and not let it manage you. So thank you. Have a good week.